Going to invite up Mr. Ben Ovio of GEMS 4 to come and take us through what is a really practical, hands-on session that affects absolutely every one of us. Ben.
Thank you. Hello, good morning once again. I'm standing on existing protocol. And let's start on a practical note. So, this morning we all went downstairs, we had breakfast. Is that correct? So before we even had a breakfast, we also had the opportunity of eating at home. So what's happening? Somewhere, somehow, we are all involved in the circular economy of waste management. So from when we are born until when we die, we are constantly generating waste. So this morning, we're going to be talking on our intervention, which is on waste management. What have we done under the waste management? And we're titling it, Picking Up Green Jobs under Waste Management. So what essentially is that? Let's pause for a moment and watch a 30-second or 38-second video, and that will give us a little bit of insight into what we are talking about. So, where are we? Is any of us affected by that? Are we part of that circular economy? Do we generate waste at home? How just are we generating our waste? Are we sorting our waste? Are we lumping everything together? What is happening? And how can jobs be created, green jobs be created within that chain that we've just seen in that video? Now, this morning, we've talked about the challenge with population growth in Nigeria. So Nigeria, like every other developing country, is facing a monumental challenge of managing waste due to population growth. And with increased population growth comes with increased volume of waste generated. Especially, the more affluent we are, the more waste we generate. Now, the World Bank has projected, or they've found out that each of us sitting here generates about 0.5 kg of waste. Now, if we take our current population, that's about between 25 million to 30 million metric tons of waste generated on a daily basis. And now with our projected population growth by 2030 reaching the 350 million mark, that will be a whopping 1.5 million metric tons of waste generated daily. And if you listen to the presentation on land, where is that waste going to be going to? Where is the land that is going to be inhabiting all that volume of waste? Now the huge question, again, is what are we doing currently and what are we not doing that needs to change? Abuja, for instance, we're told, though the research is not too clear, that about 1,300 metric tons of waste is generated. Lagos generates about 13,000 metric tons. Kano, about 4,100, and Kaduna, about 3,100 or thereabout. These are all statistics. Nobody has these exact facts. Again, challenge with data. Within all of these is a lack of efficiency and effectiveness of waste collection. We have seen that if there's an improved waste collection and recovery, that will stimulate business growth and create large numbers of jobs, especially for young men and women, that will in turn improve living conditions for local citizens. We've seen that, and we can testify to that in our short in our project. But one thing that is also very dominant in Nigeria is the active involvement of the public sector in solid waste management. For us, that is not sustainable, and that has got to change. There is also the huge potential for business growth and job creation objectives. So, if we've got to achieve business growth and job creation, Nigeria needs to urgently accelerate the development of its waste management and recycling sectors with strong emphasis on household sorting of waste as source. So the question is, all of us seated here as enlightened as we are, how many of us do sorting of waste? When we drink our drink water from our PET bottles, because the bigger, the more affluent we are, the inclination is towards buying PET bottles as sources of water. So when we finish, we lump all of them together. From our organic waste to inorganic waste, everything is lumped together, and one waste picker comes around, picks it up to an unknown destination. What is happening along that line? Now, for us, we set out as a market development project to say that our vision is focused on stimulating growth in the waste recycling sector, because we know that if we can stimulate the market, then the poor can have a significant role to play in that process in terms of job creation, in terms of increasing incomes for these vulnerable youths, especially women. So our vision, as you can see, is that aggregators and manufacturers have expanded their businesses responsive to growing demand for recyclable waste and markets for finished products while creating jobs within that supply chain. Now, to achieve this vision, there is an overall constraint which we needed to address. What is that constraint? We have seen that manufacturers who are using recyclable waste don't have enough of this recyclable waste. Now the question is, why do manufacturers need recyclable waste? Unfortunately for us, Element Petrochemical that produces resins produces about 40,000 metric tons of resins on an annual basis. And what is the national demand? 600,000 metric tons. So manufacturers are in a dilemma. What do? They either use recyclable materials in conjunction or as an alternative. In fact, some of our partners use 100% recyclable materials in the production of their plastic products. So these constraints that we have identified that needs to be addressed before the market can work for the poor. One of it is, who gets the waste in the first instance? Who goes out there to pick up this waste? All right? So there's a negative perception. Waste pickers that you know are the scavengers, the dirty-looking boys trudging the streets of urban centers with their carts. That is not an attractive job for a potential job seeker. So that is a challenge. Challenge number 2 is that of lack of technical knowledge. What waste typology, what type of waste should they pick? Even within plastic, for instance, several types of plastic. Paper, if you go to Bulla, they'll tell you there are more than 10 different types of papers. How should the paper be picked? What kind of paper do they want to pick? In what form should they be picked? So these are all waste typologies, sorting systems that needs to be understood, and the expertise that is just not there among these waste pickers that we're talking about. But more importantly, the economic benefit of collecting recyclable waste. So when you see waste everywhere, people don't know that these are real money that is being wasted. But some people have found a way to turn around all of that waste into wealth. The third is that there's limited established market linkages between aggregators and manufacturers. So when we talk about aggregators, when waste pickers pick up their waste, they take them to an aggregator. The aggregator aggregates them together for transport logistic purposes and takes them to a manufacturer who then uses them as products, either as input in conjunction with virgin raw materials or whatever form in their production processes. So there is no established market linkages between these aggregators, even between some waste pickers and aggregators in the first instance. But more significantly, as a constraint that we have identified from our scoping study is that of lack of access to finance. This is a major constraint because within the waste recycling supply chain, cash is king. When a waste picker throws these city centers and rural areas with his cart, once he drops that waste to an aggregator, he has to pay. There is no supply today, come back tomorrow. There's so much informality in the system, waste pickers don't go away. Paul would testify to that in his own operations as well. So these are constraints that we have identified. So, but what has GENS 4 as a program done so far? So to change that perception, that negative perception, we've raised awareness on the economic benefits of waste picking as a green job. How have we done that? We've organized community mobilizations and we've conducted green rally events in various towns and cities across our focus states in the southwest and in the north itself. We have also facilitated the acquisition of branded personal protective equipment for waste pickers, and this is especially significant because in the business of waste picking, it's quite hazardous, all right? So they need to be kitted with the appropriate personal protective equipment, and at the same time, when these kits are worn, these PPEs are worn by these waste pickers, that changes the negative perception of waste picking, and other young people who are out there unemployed in communities can identify with them and say, yes, I can also become a waste picker. We have also developed comprehensive community mobilization and waste picker training toolkits. These have been developed with consultants and our partners together in terms of ensuring that the right community mobilization is done. Waste pickers also understand the types of waste they're picking, how to pick it, how to sort, all of that, all within the value chain. All of those knowledge has been developed in such a way that, yes, at the end of the day, waste pickers are properly informed. And there's also institutional capacity building in terms of ensuring that training or trainer programs have been conducted so that even once GENS 4 will be exiting, these partners can have enough materials that they use in training new employees. In addition to what we've done, we have facilitated market linkages between aggregators and off-takers of recyclable products. We have also facilitated off-takers advancing credit to aggregator suppliers that they have had a relationship with. We've done that with several partners, and off-takers have responded positively to that development. We have equally facilitated access to low-interest loans for aggregators and off-taker partners. We'll talk about that shortly. And one thing you need to be aware of is that in the business of waste picking, a lot of children run around in dump sites, in landfills, and streets. As a program, we maintain a zero tolerance to child labor. Children should be in school, not on the streets, on dump sites picking up waste. So we developed it, we introduced and adopted a child labor code of conduct in partnership with our partners. Our partners have adopted it, and we've said that these are part of our key performance indicators in terms of evaluating the efficiency and effectiveness of our interventions with them. That's a typical example when children have children, and there's a little girl in a dump site working. That girl should be in school, not in a dump site. So what is the current situation as we exit? First, the waste recycling management subsector is an emerging and growing market in Nigeria. It is growing, is emerging, and we have seen that, yes, indeed, there's a lot untapped market in this sector. We have also seen that sustainable jobs have been created in the short space of time within the waste recycling supply chain. Within the value chain, if you go into Charada, Dakata, Panteka, and Olusosu in Lagos, there's quite a lot of flexible specialization going on there, all right, from pickers to cutters to washers to all of it. The value chain is pretty long. So jobs have been created in that process. And Successful business models have been developed with partners who are also expanding their operations. And in terms of access to finance, we have done some strategic engagement and advocacy, and with support from our Access to Finance team, Lagos State Employment Trust Fund and the Bank of Industry have both opened a concessionary loan window for waste recycling firms. So for Lagos State Employment Trust Fund, you can access up to 5 million naira, and for the Bank of Industry, whom we have signed a memorandum of understanding with, you can access up to 500 million naira. What are our achievements? Like I said, we started this intervention less than a year ago, and so far we're able to create 1,033 sustainable green full-time equivalent jobs for the poor. In terms of gender disaggregation, that counts, women account for 592 and men 441, but the number is growing. This figure is as at October. And there's a potential to create more jobs across the country. Don't forget, this is with just a few partners we've worked with in the Southwest, in Kano, in Kaduna, in Lagos. So imagine that this is a national project. You can obviously see the enormous job creation and income generating potential. Now, more specifically, we've got a partner in Kano, BBY SuperSAG. They have increased the capacity of 5 local aggregators, including 1 woman cooperative group within Kano municipality, just to increase the volume of waste. Now, this is a model, so they don't own these aggregation centers. These aggregation centers are owned by self-employed suppliers who are also supplying them. Now, we've got a concessionaire, a super aggregator in Oyo State, who is going to be speaking to us shortly, West Africa Energy. They have expanded their waste collection and recovery from 5 pilot locations into a further 20 communities in Old Ibadan, and they've got plans to expand their concession operations to other 2 states in the Southwest during 2018. We're looking forward to that growth and expansion. A partner in Kaduna called Metro Plastic, who shared his experience with us in Kano, has established 6 new aggregation points to increase recyclable plastic waste intake. Now, these are all owned by this partner. So they've done what is called a backward integration. They've set up these aggregation centers, managed, owned, run by them as an entity. And the next point is on access to finance. We're also happy to report that 2 market actors have received 5 million naira each from the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. 1 market actor has just received 8.7 million. Other partners have sent in their applications in the range of 100 million to 500 million naira, pending with the Bank of Industry. So what are our exit strategies? They are hinged on 4 pillars: study visits, rapid assessment, business models, and toolkits. On study visits, by this weekend, we will be undertaking a public sector investment promotion stakeholders solid waste management study visit to partners in Kano to understand their business operation, and on to Lagos and Ibadan in the Southwest. For us, this is about laying a firm foundation for private sector-led solid waste management model in Jigawa, Kaduna, and Kano, which could also be replicated by other states in the country. We have also conducted an impact assessment of solid waste management in 3 northern urban city centers: Hadija in Jigawa, Kano in Kano, Kaduna in Kaduna State, respectively. And the scope, all we're trying to look for is the scope for improving the efficiency and effectiveness of solid waste management efforts. And I've just mentioned earlier on that our partners have adopted our business models. So we've shared our business models with them. They've adopted them in terms of improving their solid waste management efforts while creating more jobs. Business models such as community waste collection program, community women waste collection program, backward integration for our aggregator and off-takers, sub-aggregation business models, the concession model that our partner is also operating. In terms of knowledge sharing and dissemination, we've got toolkits that have been developed, which we are going to be sharing. So comprehensive toolkits for community mobilization and waste speaker training and capacity development are also available, and we have shared some of these. And there is also a training of trainers program as part of our institutional development and change management in partners' business operations. What are the lessons and recommendations on our intervention? Lesson number one is that the waste management offers indeed an enormous potential for job-rich, pro-poor growth in the circular economy of Nigeria. We've also seen that waste management concessioning, especially from public to private sector, is evolving as a sustainable strategic solution for more efficient and effective private sector-led solid waste management, as well as increased income-generating revenue for government. Oyo and Lagos states are typical examples, and our partner will share a brief on what they're doing in Oyo State in terms of that concessioning model. But there is also the Lagos model, where 50 billion naira green bond backed up by the Lagos State government was snapped up just like that within 2 weeks of its flotation at the stock exchange. We also have learned from our intervention that leveraging structured private sector SME partners appears a more sustainable strategy in creating formal jobs. Like our team leader would say, yeah, working a bit with hole-in-the-wall partners is a bit of a challenge, but working with more structured private sector SME partners appears the route to go. But there needs to be a paradigm shift, what Stephen Covey would describe. And there has to be a transition from a public sector model, which is currently existing in most states in this country, to a private sector-led solid waste management business model. What are the objectives? It will attract investment and create jobs. Like I say to people, the business of government is not to create jobs. Government has no business in business. Government business is to create an enabling environment, the type that the last speaker spoke about when he was talking about investment. That is what creates jobs. And for jobs to be created, for a private sector-led solid waste management model to be in place, two things must happen. There must be an enabling law that will endear the confidence of investors into that climate, and also the environmental policy that will be so attractive to private sector investors. Not when one government leaves, another one comes and knocks off all the agreements that have been reached. That is not healthy for private sector investment. And for us, we see this intervention as a last mile on the marathon. GEMS 4 has been on for 5.5 years, but we came on stream just 1 year ago. Lots of challenges. Challenge of starting a new intervention in the last year of an intervention, selecting the right partners, aligning partners' objective to program objectives, and the struggle of delivery. All of these were some challenges that we have identified. So, at this point in time, I'd like to say that we have spoken, we have shared our experiences, but like I say, statistics don't mean anything except you hear from the real people. And like Chenwa Achebe would say, Africa is people, we're not mere statistics. So we've worked with a number of partners across the country. One of such partners is going to be speaking to us today. They are a concessionaire. They are a super aggregator in waste recycling. What's more, they are also operating a concessioning model in Oyo State, but they also have they're operating the first and functional material recovery facility in Lagos State. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me to welcome the CEO of West Africa Energy, Paul Callaghan.
So thank you very much, everybody. I'm very conscious I'm the last speaker before lunch, and I can smell the food, so I'm hungry as well. So so I won't, second to last, sorry, okay. That's pleasing. So I won't take too much of your time, and just to introduce the work we've done with GEMS 4 and a little bit about West Africa Energy. So as we said, we're now the largest landfill diversion company in West Africa. we recover in excess of 400 tons of recyclable material a day. That's plastics, paper, metals, and we sell that only in Nigeria. We don't export anything. From Lagos, we sell it as far north as Kanu, and we sell it as far east as Abia. In Kanu, they make the plastic teapots. In Abia, they make pretty much anything you want out of recyclable materials in Abia. So specifically for the GEMS 4 program that we did, with a very modest grant to purchase the PPE training and do training for training, we've managed to employ and sustainably employ 920 women to work in the core Ibadan areas. So when we talk about core, for those of you who know Ibadan, the core Ibadan areas is Bere, Oje, and the one I can never pronounce, but in English it means deaf man dancing. So it's so we can go from there. But in addition to those jobs, we've actually created a further 300 indirect jobs. So we have, that's it, someone said it. So we created further 300 jobs through revenue collection, security, and so on as we're going through there. But for me, the intangible benefits are greater. So through the publicity that we created through our campaigns and so on, what we found is that our customer base, those who want to buy our products, has widened. The level of agreement and, shall we say, the compliance levels to those willing to pay for their waste management, those people who will not throw their waste in the rivers and therefore into the oceans, has also increased. So we're collecting more waste, we're raising more money for the government, and we're making Ibadan cleaner. So the 3 ticks in everyone's box when you're talking about waste management. The previous slide, I think 1 or 2 mentioned about IGR. We've raised an additional 6 billion naira for IGR for Oyo State over 12 months. Our partnership model with Oyo State is that we do not collect any money. Any money that we collect gets paid directly to Oyo State as we go through. That way they can raise their IGR. If there's any more concerns about needing to borrow money, they have the revenue coming in, the state can start borrowing money and investing in its own infrastructure as we go through. But for me personally, I'll be honest with you, I was a skeptic. I was a very skeptic about these types of programs. And I know, speaking with Ben and Jerry, as we're going through, I would say, what's my business with this? What are you going to do for me as a business? I'm now a convert, I have to say, so I'm very pleased. So like I said, our grant was very modest. I thought it was going to come, it was going to go, there was going to be nothing was going to happen. But actually to see the 900 jobs we created, the indirect jobs we created, but it's not just about creating jobs. In Ibadan, in the core areas, is very poor. And we are paying above minimum wage. We're providing health benefits, health insurance for those people we've employed, and we provide pensions as well as we're going through there. But even above that, you see the development of the families. You now have women who are earning one day, not earning the next, earning a regular monthly wage. It's all banked. We don't pay any cash, so they put the money directly into the bank. They get access to bank financing, and they're now in the system within banks. That gives them credit. They can start investing in generators, and so on and so on and so on as we're going through there. But for me personally, and we've all seen the recent pictures in Libya and all this types of stuff, what we're doing by growth and creating jobs is we're stopping people going through that route. We are creating jobs in country for people to stay in country and to develop in country. And for me personally, that's the biggest benefit. So from the smallest acorn, we can grow very large trees as we're going through there. So I want to say thank you very much to GEMS 4, their team, and I look forward to GEMS 5, GEMS 10, GEMS 20 as we're going through. So thank you very much, and thank you very much to your team. Much pleasure.
Thank you so much. Well, what more can I say? We can see that waste recycling makes not only environmental sense, but it does make an economic sense. So I'd like to conclude this presentation by saying, I'm going to quote an English proverb. It says, use it up, wear it out, make it do, or do without. Thank you.